If you aren't familiar with the Mario and Luigi RPG franchise, then I hate to break it to you, but you've been missing out. I know a lot of people have pushed these games away, so I thought it would be a fantastic idea to reward the loyal fan base in the Mario and Luigi games. They're doing a fun little video on what, in my opinion, are the top 5 hardest bosses throughout the series. My only rules is that every game from Superstar Saga to Paper Jam needs to be included at least once. The remakes of Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story are not going to be included. And most importantly, the X-bosses or refights or whatever you want to call it are not going to be included because a few of them would definitely dominate the list. So if you love awesome top 10s, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and without further ado, let's get started. So Partners in Time is definitely one of the much easier Mario and Luigi games due to the fact that a handful of attacks can go on indefinitely, meaning most bosses are able to go down in 1 or 2 turns. That's not to say there isn't one, or I guess 2 difficult bosses. I put the 2 final bosses together because you fight one, then you fight the other without any time to take a breath, or save, or do anything. So the first battle is with Princess Shroob, who has a force field at the beginning of the battle. It takes only a few hits to destroy, usually 1 turn using a copy flower is enough. The next and final phase of the battle, the evil princess has a staggering 3000 HP, and will throw barrages of attacks including shooting lasers with varying heights, shooting energy orbs that can cause static effects and stat decrease, and forming a huge mech to stomp on the quadsum. After her demise, there's some story stuff that happens, and then out of nowhere, Elder Princess Shroob appears and you gotta fight her now. There's 2 main phases in this boss fight. First, you fight her princess form with a gigantic 3500 HP. The attacks are pretty standard, with some small stuff like a hockey check, throwing giant meteorites, and even using the top screen of the DS to station Shroob UFOs and have them to help her rain attacks among the babies and the bros. After taking her out, she activates her crown and becomes Squidward's purple mom. A common theme you'll see throughout the final boss of these games is that having multiple limbs that all attack is a recurring theme. So Elder Princess Shroob has 5 parts. Her legs have 500 HP, she's got 2 arms with 350 HP each, a crown with 200 HP, and her main part, the head, which has 2000 HP. But it won't really take damage until the crown and the other limbs are taken out. Her attacks are ferocious with terrible death perception, and small timing windows to be safe. The Shroob UFOs sacrifice themselves to protect their elder princess, and the music bops like hell. But in conclusion, the boss fight's pretty difficult, but not really insane, which is why it's only number 10 on the list. Fawful is 100% my favorite antagonist in pretty much any game of all time. The man's story spans 3 games, though very short in Partners in Time, and Dark Fawful is the final battle with the being himself. Unless you count Dark Bowser, in which we disagree there. So the main gimmick with the Dark Fawful battle is his vacuum helmet. It will help Fawful avoid Bowser's attacks and will heal him for 300 HP every single turn. The only counter to this is to batter the helmet off Fawful's head, inhale it, and let Mario and Green Stash hop on the pain train. Not to say that even this mini battle is easy. You lose access to your bros attacks temporarily, and it still has a pretty big 1200 HP. After taking that out, the main battle with Fawful is pretty standard. He has a wide variety of attacks using dark magic, and most of them will go and lower Bowser's defense if they make contact. There's this one attack where he surrounds himself with these purple orbs, and you need to punch Goombas to thread the needle and hit Fawful a few times to nullify the attack. But if you fail to do so, which by the way isn't that hard to mess up, you're gonna die if you're not overleveled or didn't invest heavily in the HP and defense. Chances are, it could be a one-shot. Other than that, he's got 1736 HP for some odd reason, and it's really pretty normal besides a few gimmicks, but nevertheless, it's a decently difficult battle. In my opinion, Mario & Luigi Dream Team is definitely one of the more difficult Mario & Luigi games. Not really for any particular gimmick or reason, it's honestly just kinda hard, which I think a solid RPG should be. The final battle of Antasma is no exception. The backing is surrounded by these black and red orbs called Antasma Munchies, which will either eat every turn for stat boost, or will trap Dreamy Luigi, your main source of power in the dream world, in one of the orbs which you need to memorize and break open as Mario. Also, the munchies are used in some of his most brutal attacks, and can also put a shield around Phantasma and heal him. Another one of his main gimmicks is that whenever you get hit by one of his attacks, you get the Nightmare status effect, which will send Mario into his own nightmare, where Phantasma chases you, and you need to find the Dream Portal to get back to the normal Dream World. But if you land in a Nightmare Portal, you'll get transported deeper into the Nightmare, and you'll need to use the gyro controls to dodge saw blades while falling through. So the level of Inception is pretty much uninterpretable, which I guess can represent the difficulty of the boss fight if you somehow find a way to get a metaphor buried somewhere in there. But yeah, it's a very good final Dream World battle for Dream Team. So, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam is probably the least traditional game in the series, but the tradition of a gimmicky, awesome soundtracked final boss fight sticks. The final boss fight against Bowser and Paper Bowser starts with a phase of fighting the two of their normal states. They mainly use the same attacks, but one is a 3D version and one is a 2D paper version. After a little bit, they do their fusion dance and form Shiny Robo Bowser, the rarest Pokemon in the game. What makes this phase of the battle really hard is just a full-on brute force. He attacks all three bros at once, multiple times per turn. The main gimmick is his shiny cardboard armor. The armor completely nullifies all trio attacks, and even goes to use the attacks back against you, which is actually pretty sick. The armor can be broken, but it regenerates so quickly in a few turns, and heals for a pretty significant amount of HP. That's pretty much all there really is to it though, but it's definitely a toughie. So I had a bit of trouble choosing which of these bosses to include, and I didn't really want to waste a space in the list on one because they're literally both just Kamek. In Dream Team, you fight Kamek a few times, but then you fight Kamek for the final showdown. Kamek splits himself into 4 different Kameks, a red, green, white, and blue one, each with their own turns and health bars. They all throw up brutal magic attacks, and to make matters worse, the white Kamek decides to heal and stat boost his comrades. There's also this one broom attack from the red one that no matter how many times I try to dodge, I'm always hit for a ridiculous amount of damage. There also has this thwomp attack from the blue Kamek, which isn't really difficult, but it literally goes on for like 3 minutes. I honestly just take the hit because I don't feel like wasting time watching the cutscene. These bosses are honestly just a chore. We also have Kamek and Paper Kamek, who feels difficult for the wrong reasons. Once again, they both have their own individual health bars and turn to attack. But the worst thing comes from Paper Jam's new mechanic, Boss Rage. Once a boss hits its half HP mark, they get mad and glow red, and they attack more times per turn and do more damage. So when you have multiple bosses, you're going to be dealing with 4 to 6 attacks per turn. And a lot of the attacks feel like bullcrap as well. Whether it's an electric jump rope that destroys my depth perception, or an almost RNG based paper airplane segment that's almost a one-hit KO if you mess up. I guess Kamek's just always a chore to deal with. Cue the music. Yep, yeah, you know which boss fight this is. Dark Bowser in the Dark Star Core is a roller coaster of a boss fight. For the first portion of the battle, you go Bowser to Bowser in a 100 HP match of brute force, raw power, and dark magic. Dark Bowser will throw ruthless attacks including dark fire and rock shooting, trapping you in a cage and trying to end your career, and even just forceful punches of power and brute force. Then once the 1000 HP mark is drained, the remains of Dark Fawful fully reheal him from the inside. The Dark King grows huge and launches a barrage of dark enemies at you until you punch him in the gut, he spits a little twerp out, you mash A like your life freaking depends on it to inhale it, and then the real battle begins. The Dark Star Core looks like a tiny piece of crap, but then he ignites his dark energy and turns into the nightmare of my second 6 years of my life. You'd think you've seen it all, but it's still just the beginning. You gotta take out all of his legs and crack his glasses in order to reveal his power source, the Dark Star Core. Trust me, you still might think it's almost over, but it's more powerful than ever. It'll throw out ballistic attacks, giving you no room to breathe. Also, if you take too long to destroy it, it will respawn all of its limbs and jump out of Bowser's body, resetting all of your progress. It's an around the world of a boss fight, but getting those final punches at the end is certainly satisfying. If you were a scrawny 8-year-old when you first fought this boss fight, you know why it's on this list. In Bowser's Inside Story, the giant battles for the most part are pretty much a joke. Most can be small road bump, but then there's the Fawful Express. The most bullcrap, stupid, hard for the wrong reasons, dumb, annoying boss in the game. So the little crapper has two main gimmicks. One is that if you take too long to defeat the train, you just freaking die. But the thing is, if you screw up one attack, one counterattack, anything at all, you'll go over the turn limit and lose. The other gimmick is you can't use Punch. The train's just too short. You need to use Flame Breath every turn, but it uses the freaking DS microphone, so add that tiny factor and you're just waiting to lose. No attacks are really notable since I don't even think it's possible for the train to kill you without the gimmicks. It's just a stupid fight. So back to the topic of giant battles. They're pretty similar in Bowser's Inside Story as they are in Dream Team, but the Dream Team giant battles are a lot more elaborate in that they can actually be difficult for reasons besides haha funny gimmick. The final giant battle against Super Bowser is definitely the most difficult in the game. So facing a giant Bowser is a scenario as old as time itself. Well, have you ever faced giant Bowser as giant Luigi? Well, it's not easy. You need to carefully plan which attacks to use depending on the terrain you're standing on as well as the background. For the main portion of the battle, your goal is to constantly push Bowser back while also trying to inflict as much damage as possible by chucking him in the lava. But he fights back hard. His attacks keep you on your toes and punish you heavily if you fail to dodge or counterattack. The main difficulty comes at the very end, where you go full Beyblade against Bowser using the dreaded gyro controls, and if you're at low HP, you're definitely gonna have a pretty rough time. But after you manage to defeat Bowser, there's still more. So Kamek decides, screw it, magic, and turns Bowser even bigger. He attacks you once, and when you counterattack, you push him into the lava, and then it's time for your final attack. And Luigi just says, screw it, big star. And there's a huge finishing move on Bowser. But you need to have full control of gyro controls and 3DS depth perception to be able to aim the star at Bowser and hit the super out of Super Bowser. Definitely a hard battle, but also a very fun one. Fast forward about half an hour from the previous boss on the list, and even the final boss of Dream Team. So Dreamy Bowser is a brute force beast with a combined 3,500 HP, including his two arms with about 500 HP each. And they all have their own turns to attack, so I guess it definitely is a final boss in the Mario & Luigi series. He's got a lot of Dreamstone powers, such as summoning dream enemies, moving into the background and taking a few turns to heal, and just full out pummeling the two bros with his malicious attacks. There isn't any gimmick at all to actually make this battle hard, it's just hard, like a final boss of an amazing game should be. If you've played a majority of the Mario & Luigi games, you 100% saw this coming. Almost all of the boss fights in Superstar Saga are a complete joke. But then for the final boss fight, it goes from a 1 to an infinity in less than a second. The first part of the battle against Bowletta is also a complete joke. I'm not even including it as part of this boss fight. But then you go full Bowser's Inside Story and fight Cacletta's soul from the inside. You're stuck at 1 HP at the beginning of the battle, and if the speed of either of your bros isn't above 80, she'll attack first, with her head and both arms. If you don't heavily invest into speed, you're going to have to survive the first hit, and spend another hit to heal both bros. The battle isn't even close to being over yet though. Both arms and the head have a lot of HP, and yes, they have their own turns and attacks. And they all need to be destroyed to reveal the weak spot, the heart. The heart will regenerate the limbs and head, and you only have a few turns to attack it, and it will keep healing itself while you're attacking it. Most of the attacks are pretty brutal and can destroy you with just a few hits. It's 100% the most difficult boss in the series, but it's awfully rewarding to finally defeat. So it was definitely really fun to go back and play my favorite series of games of all time. So I'm really glad I got the opportunity to make this list, and definitely expect more content on this series in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed this top 10. Yeah, that's really it. So do the stuff I said at beginning, like, subscribe, bye.